Hi, everybody. Welcome to Choosers of the Slain, Episode 2. We are back. Episode 2, yeah. We are talking about the Quarter of Chaos and Adepticon, which was just this past weekend.
Also, some pretty cool reveals that were shown at Adepticon.
Yeah, there were. And as I'm sure I'll discuss later on, I have given up Gene Stealer cults because chaos.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I always said if Chaos and Slaanesh got better models, I'd be going back to it. And lo and behold, I go all in on a Gene Stealer called army, and here comes Chaos. That's all right, though. Anyway, so Adepticon had some, I don't want to call them upsets, but the things we complained about in our last episode and how Castellans were just ruling the meta at LVO basically wasn't an issue at Adepticon.
So I'm going to go ahead and take that to mean that everybody listened to us before Adepticon.
I think that's a fair takeaway.
All of our views included. No, that's not what happened at all.
At all.
I think it's just the entire community is feeling like we were in our first episode. So I think that was kind of a change that was long coming.
Yeah, and I think you see, looking at, there's 4 orc lists, a quarter of the top 16 was orcs. I think you see that people have kind of figured out where the niche for orcs is. It was really nice to see demons win.
Oh yeah,
Chaos Soup.
Oh, especially. Granted, Nurgle is solid with that.
Yeah.
Disgustingly resilient, but still, Chaos Demons as an army gets kind of tread on a lot for being down there with Grey Knights as like one of the weaker armies in the meta. So to see somebody without like a super gimmicky list do really, really well. It wasn't like they ran 900 flying demon princes or like all of the greater demons or any like kind of quirky list. It was just like a solid Nurgle list.
Right. Well, and it wasn't just Nurgle. It was he had a detachment of Nurgle that was running, I think, 60 Plague Bearers and a unit of Nurglings, and then had a detachment, a battalion of Chaos Undivided, which was. It ran, I don't even remember everything. I think there was a demon prince. There was a combination of troops. There was it was basically everything except Nurgle.
Yeah, there was a Hellforged Contempted Dreadnought, it looks like. Some pink horrors, or am I looking at the wrong chaos list here? Nope, Nurglings, Plague Bearers.
Yeah, he had a Supreme Command detachment of Thousand Suns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ahriman, some demon princes.
A lot of psychic power.
Yeah, it's so I was doing it a disservice calling it a Nurgle list. I was reading the big chunk of the troops there, and it's kind of my brain went sideways on how much else was in the list. But yeah, it's just a good solid list that just shows that it's almost as much the player as it is the codex. Granted, there are some. And the reason why I say almost, I'm not trying to put down the game or anything, but there are some codexes that are just
better,
more balanced than others.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have some players in our area here that will often say, a great player can win with a crappy list if it's done right. And so it's just nice to see somebody come in with something that everybody assumes is not going to do well, and then just outplays all of his opponents.
Yeah.
Especially the final matchup in that. Juice is a solid player.
Yeah.
From the Long War. He's a solid player, and to see somebody take Chaos Demons up against an equally solid Gene Stealer cult list.
Yeah, that list was scary.
That's good. I was very happy to see that.
Yeah. So shout out to Jim. I think it's Wiesel. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong.
Yeah, good job, man. Good on you.
But yeah, nice work. That's a solid list, and you obviously played it quite well. I will say the other thing I really liked to see was that a good chunk of the top 16 was Xenos lists, but only 2 of them were Eldari.
True. Yeah, we got some Tau in there, some Tyranids in there.
Yeah, 4 orcs, 2 Tau, Tyranids and Gene Stealer cults, and a couple Eldar lists, and then 4 Imperial lists maybe.
I think so.
Yeah.
We had Ultramarines, the Militarum Tempestus, Acadian list, and an Imperial Knights list.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice to see. It really feels like the top 16 at Adepticon was a much more encouraging spread for the health of the game.
Absolutely. Like when you look at a game that has in the neighborhood of 20 factions,
Right.
and at the top 16 in a big tournament has a pretty good representation across those 20 factions is nice, because I'll be honest, I was kind of expecting we would be reading, Catachin, Ultramarines,
For sure.
Inari Tau, or something like that,
Yeah, and it's not like there were any major changes to anything since then. It seems like the game sort of had a chance to settle in a little bit with the new codexes that came out, and maybe it's a comfort thing where you've been playing a certain type of list for an entire season, and so why not take it to the LVO? Then the meta shifts when the new season starts. I'm not sure.
I mean, that could be a portion of it too. Is Adepticon it's a nice big tournament, but it's also kind of the beginning of the year.
Right.
So anything that people have been cooking up that they want to try, and also it's not as intimidating as the 800 person World Series of 40K.
Sure.
So people are a little bit more willing to experiment with lists that they think might be solid that are not the cookie cutter.
Yeah.
I would just like to see this trend continue personally.
Agreed. It would be. I would love to see. I would love to see a top 16 that had no more than one duplicate per faction.
That would be amazing. I mean, that may be asking for too much, because certain armies are not only, like we said earlier, certain armies are more balanced or more powerful than others, but also just from a marketing standpoint, some armies are just more popular than others. So I don't know that we'll ever reach that ideal, but you know what? The getting closer and closer to it, I'm not complaining about that.
Yeah, and Adepticon this year was not that far away, honestly. I think the only thing there were more than two of, let's see, it'd be orcs. Everything else was, pretty sure everything else was soup that we have duplication on.
Well, even with the orcs, though, they were different clans, so it wasn't like we saw.
Yep.
So we had Bad Moons, Death Skulls, and trying to think what the fourth one was.
Looks like mixed detachments.
Just of general.
Yeah.
So, just a general orc list. So it wasn't like we saw Freebooters 4 times or Bad Moons 4 times or.
Yeah. No, it was that was encouraging to see those results. So good job to everybody that pulled that top 16, and hopefully we continue to see this kind of trend for the rest of the season. Yeah,
that would be amazing. We'll take a short break here, and then we'll move on to talking about what was announced at Adepticon. Some reveals that Games Workshop put out that are just, they've got both of us beside ourselves with excitement.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and take a break. We'll be back with you in a minute. So, welcome back. We're just talking about the results of Adepticon for the Warhammer 40K Championships, but I think honestly, as much as I love competitive play, what I'm a little bit more excited to talk about Adepticon were the reveals that we had, various models and news from Games Workshop. So, just kind of off the top, I'll go ahead and I'll ask my partner here, Nate, what stood out to you the most?
Well, I mean, as an avid follower of She Who Thirsts, all the Slanesh stuff was huge for me, except I will say, I don't even know what it's called, but the dude with the tentacles and the herald and the tentacles on his back, it's take it or leave it for me. It's not that it's a bad model, it's just, I don't know, it's not my cup of tea, I guess.
Fair enough.
It's solid, it looks nice, I don't know. Something about it puts me off.
almost rather have them as two separate things, like
Yeah.
a demon prince that looks exactly like that, and then a new herald with a big crazy whip, but two separate models.
Yeah, and I think part of it too would depend on how big it is. Like if that model is, the size of a demon prince, okay, I'm a little more into that.
Fair enough. It does appear in the picture, it appears to be standing on a 60 mil base.
Okay.
Because of the width to bezel ratio. My years of modeling makes me think that that's a 60 mil base. Maybe it's a 50, but it's bigger than a 40.
Well, and looking at the height of the herald compared to the guy himself, yeah, he looks like he's probably twice the height of a demonette. So yeah, I'm a little more impressed with the model now that I'm taking a closer look at it. I hate to say it because it's one of my favorite characters in the Demon Codex, but I'm just not super thrilled with the mask.
Fair. Here I'm going to forget what they're called, but the little neck frill thing, the Shakespearean collar.
Rough?
Yeah, I think that's what they're called.
Yeah, but it's rough.
It's fitting that it has it, and I also hate it. I just don't like that look. So I'm with you that I'm not a huge fan of the resculpt of the mask. Size-wise, I will say, kind of looking at that, I think it's on a 40 mil now.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
So
Or 32.
but I think, the sculpt is good.
Yeah. The
It's
sculpt is
finely detailed miniature. I just
Yeah.
don't like how it looks. Also, not a fan of the kind of weird curly horn hairdo that it's got going on.
See, I like the horns. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of the face,
That's fair. That's fair. I'll give you that.
but I do like the stocking look. That's a nice touch.
It is. I would have liked different leg pose though.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that one's going to be a breakable model.
Yeah, it looks pretty fragile.
It's kind of up on its toes and leaning, like its center of gravity is in front of its glue point on the base. So that's, I feel like the folks who buy that model are going to be re-gluing it to its base or to its ankle a lot.
Quite possibly.
However, away from slight grumbling that we have, the heretofore unnamed twins with a mirror portal thing, that model is awesome looking.
They're gorgeous. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it does. I don't care. It is amazing, and I want it.
So yeah, I love how the portal is setting on what looks like coiled snake tails.
Yes.
I like just it's just an amazing looking model. And I also think their endless spells for the Hedonites, specifically for Age of Sigmar, their endless spells look amazing. The fact that they have like a little swarm piece that looks like the blades off of the chariots.
Yep.
The little hand portal looks cool.
Like a hand mirror.
Yeah, and the face with the tongues that turn into the whip rasps off of the herald from the chariot.
It is so
They're
great.
just, the endless spells are just gorgeous.
They are. But, the piece de la resistance.
Oh God, yeah.
The Keeper of Secrets.
Keeper of Secrets is just amazing. I can't speak enough to how that model carries. It's like quiet menace is the phrase that I have just kind of looking at that model. It's stalking at the camera like a Terminator.
Yeah.
Like it's just I don't know. I just love it. It's done with your crap, and it's going to take care of you.
Right, and it does the thing that I think Slaanesh is really in the lore is really hyped up to do, but the models, especially some of the older ones, just didn't really, and that's the whole. It's both alluring and unsettling. Like
Yes.
you look at it and you go, wow, that is gorgeous, but also, why do I think it's gorgeous?
Exactly.
Like something's wrong here. And that's, I think it does that really well. It has
Absolutely.
that kind of, that grace to it, but at the same time, it's just unsettling.
Well, it manages to make a bovine face look like almost elven in its like.
Yeah.
It's just, it has like a statuesque beauty to a very like bestial face.
Yep. Yeah,
Just-
you can see the Eldar influence.
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
a lot of ways.
It's just, hats off to the sculptor on this
Yeah,
one.
I don't know who sculpted that, but they did a phenomenal job.
Yeah, and the posing, just the I know I mentioned that it looks like it's stalking toward the camera, but like it's not in the stereotypical Games Workshop like hero pose.
No, not at all.
It doesn't look like it's posing for an album cover.
Yeah,
I just think the motion, everything kind of captured in its image. Like it is a lot of the models in this game are works of art. This one, I just, it's a great model. I'm so impressed with it.
No, I am as well.
And it needed it so bad.
Oh, it really did. It really did. I like that it's kind of a throwback to the not the most recent resin / metal Keeper of Secrets, but the previous one that had the bovine head. Like that is a nice throwback to that without being
absolutely
too on the nose about it.
A lot of I've seen a lot of commentary online already where people are like, why does its face look like that? And then people will post like a picture of like the old, I don't know if it was like second edition or whatever, but the old black and white picture of the Keeper of Secrets, where it basically looked like a minotaur with the fiend scorpion tail and the demonette claws. So it was neat to see people like quickly leaping to its defense. Like, no, it's supposed to look like that.
Yeah. No, I just, the way it is sculpted, I love that it has like the stocking thing going on. Mm-hmm. It's got the collar, the high collar, the cloak and everything. It's just a really well composed model that has, in my opinion at least, just the right amount of detail without getting too overloaded.
Absolutely. Well, something I love about it, and I'm probably going to cut us off talking about it there just because we could gush about this model forever.
Yeah.
But what I like is that the Keeper of Secrets can now join the Cool Kid Club, because all of the other Greater Demons have gotten their resculpts, and every one of them looks amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And
absolutely.
so now I was happy to see the fourth god get like an actual, to get to join that club of like, now all the Greater Demons look amazing.
Yeah. And the other thing that I'm really interested to see, and in the preview pictures you kind of see it too, the whole body picture shows the traditional Keeper of Secrets, the double claws, the sword, the empty hand. But then in some of the other zoomed in shots, you get one with a buckler, which there's no current rules for a Keeper of Secrets with the buckler. So if we follow the trends, there will be 2 or 3 Keeper variants and probably a named character. And I'm really interested to see what that looks like, and also if that means that we might be seeing a Chaos Demons book 2 soon, like we did with Chaos Marines.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I also wouldn't be surprised if we see Space Marines version 2 with all the Primaris stuff added.
Oh, for sure. I would guess that's next, and then whenever this Slaanesh stuff comes out, we probably see.
Yep. The Hedon Knights of Slaanesh are close enough to sale that they're showing pictures of the battle tome, but I believe they have specifically said the next Age of Sigmar battle tome is going to be the Fire Slayers, who are getting a little bit of love.
I believe you are correct.
So a new battle tome will be great for them. But in the new tradition of endless spells and a terrain piece that all Age of Sigmar things seem to be getting, they're adding some models to the lovable dwarves. What with them not being magicians, though, instead of endless spells, kind of like Khorne, they're getting an alternative, which looks to be a big giant lava monster, which I think is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
He is, I'm trying to think what they call him, a Forgian, I think, or a Magmic Invocation, the fiery equivalent of endless spells.
Yeah, they have a couple endless spells. I've seen the previews for the other ones, but I'm not seeing them now. But yeah, the big dude.
A magical salamander, I think, is how they describe it in the text. But
and then there's a couple other ones that are
Mm-hmm.
in line with.
yeah, it's a set of them, just like how Khorne got the Judgments of Khorne, which
Yeah.
was a set of 3, just like everybody else gets.
Yep.
Little on the nose with the whole like, well, these armies don't have spells, so we're going to give them 3 not spells.
Yeah.
But
it's nice to see, though. It keeps
yeah.
things kind of balanced.
yeah, it does. It does. But I'm excited about that, and their terrain feature, the forge, just that cool looking like a brass or a bronze dwarven head with a little fire in his mouth.
Yeah.
Just an amazing looking piece. And then of course, there's a Caradron Overlords Night Haunt or Night Vault. I say
Yeah.
Night Haunt. That's the army. Night Vault team coming out. A lot of information on Warcry. Some of the models for that are just looking amazing.
Oh, if they pack a box of Plastic Furies, I might actually use them in a Demon's Army because that new one is nice.
What I'm looking at is in the figures that they did showcase on Warhammer Community, you've got like these guys that basically look like a football team with a bunch of melee weapons. But amongst them is a big, muscly dude with who looks like he's on maybe a 40 mil or possibly, I think he's a 40 mil base.
Yeah,
but he's just like
ogre.
big hulking dude with like a hammer for one hand and a like a flail ball, whatever they call the spike mace kind of deal for his Morningstar for his other hand. Thank you. That to me is just screaming to get converted into a Demon Prince.
Oh, for sure. He's a Chaos Ogre.
Yeah.
And then the other one's a dwarf there, which
Oh,
I
yeah,
love.
yeah.
I can't think of what it is now, but the name for the way his beard armor is done with like the linked coins. It's just both really characterful models.
Absolutely. But just the pose that the Chaos Ogre, as you said, is in,
Yeah.
looks like it'd be very easy to add wings to him.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so just I'm looking at that model like, oh, there's a Khorne Demon Prince waiting to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's just some amazing stuff coming out. There's also a couple, they showed the event characters. So some Primaris characters like a Terminator Librarian and looks kind of like a Primaris generic character that could be a lieutenant or a captain or a sergeant or however you wanted to field him because he's kind of
Primaris Lieutenant Amulius.
Yeah, he's cool looking dude, but what I like about him is his model is detailed. He looks neat, but he's not so like literally you could snip that Iron Halo off and run him as a like a sergeant in a unit for your Indominus Crusaders, or you could run him as a lieutenant. You could run him as a captain.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a neat model. It's a cool pose. Once again, getting away from the hero pose. He doesn't look like he's about to throw a football.
Right.
I think it's a really sharp looking model.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like the render for the librarian. I mean, it's just it's a relatively generic pose, but it's dynamic enough to be interesting.
Indeed. I wonder if it will have a helmeted head option.
Boy, I don't know. That'd be
Because
nice.
with the Psychic Hood there, I don't know that there'll be one.
Right.
But that's something. Maybe I'm an outlier, but for some reason, I like to have my dudes in walking tank armor actually wearing their protective gear.
Yeah.
So I love it when characters look amazing, but I hate it when I can't put a helmet on them.
Yeah.
So
that's fair.
Just the big shroud of the Psychic Hood on that armor makes me wonder if they're even going to offer the ability to have him be helmeted.
Yeah, if he weren't an event character, I'd probably say my guess is the way it's assembled, there might be a way to have that helmeted head, but with it being an event character, it's tough to say. I think you're probably right.
Yeah, I'll have to get out the Dremel if I can get my hands on one.
Yeah.
I'll put a helmet in there.
Oh yeah.
I'll get one.
Easy
in there.
enough. You could probably just not put the head in there. My guess is it's a separate piece. Maybe not. Might be part of the Psychic Hood that goes in front. Or they haven't even made this proof for this yet. So, also a possibility.
If you're listening, Games Workshop, which I doubt you are, helmets, please.
If you are, let us know.
Yeah, please. Like an email or something. Also the announcement of Apocalypse.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for this, not just because big stupid games are fun, I mean, who doesn't like ordering a pizza and playing 40K for like 10 hours? But the bigger thing, honestly, is movement trays. Because they talk about, and it's right in the article, they're like, yep, that is a 40K movement tray. And so the fact that there will be, it'll be available, that tells me, if they're gonna be making movement trays, they're gonna sell them on their own. If they sell them on their own, the orc players and the Tyranid players, and because who cares if you're playing Apocalypse,
Right?
all those horde armies, guard gun lines, Tau gun lines. How amazing will it be to have ready-made movement trays?
Absolutely.
Not having to go to third party. So,
I mean, nothing against the third-party producers out there. That's always a nice niche to fill. It's just we know some places are a little uppity about using third-party stuff, and
well, for me, it's also at least at this point a quality control thing.
Yeah.
Because a lot of third-party places. Again, there's some reputable, solid folks out there. Mm-hmm. There's also ones that you place an order and a year and a half later you haven't gotten your stuff.
Yeah.
Or it's stuff doesn't fit exactly right because it's a guy making them in his garage, so the tolerances aren't as great. So as a retailer, I could get on Etsy and buy a bunch of movement trays and put them in plastic bags and sell them in the store, or work out a deal with a guy with a 3D printer and have him make them and I can sell them in the store. But if Games Workshop's got them and they've got that Citadel logo on them, I can. That's what I'm excited about.
It's a lot easier to sell to somebody who's just getting into the hobby to say, hey, so you're picking up this Tyranid army. If you want to play bigger games or you're concerned about having 85 bajillion Hormagaunts, Games Workshop produces these movement trays that make it a lot faster to move your army.
Absolutely.
And it just tends to go over better to somebody who's new to the hobby then. And also, this guy from Utah makes these movement trays out of corkboard and popsicle sticks.
Yeah. Or like, if somebody says like, oh, you got to move 120 orcs on the table, that's going to make my back hurt. Be like, well, you could go to shapeways.com and look up a store called, Monkey Burger or something. Right. And, so it's just nicer to be like, here, use this.
Yeah.
This will help you.
Agreed.
So yeah, I'm excited about that. But also just, I get a lot of requests in the shop for, when are we going to do a big game again? Post on the Facebook group that we want to do a 9,000 point game or whatever. So just seeing official 8th edition support.
Yeah.
And I'm also really interested to see how they do, because they describe it as it's instead of being unit on unit, it's like detachment on detachment.
Yeah, formations.
Yep. So I'm really curious to see, just mechanically how they change it. Whereas, back in 5th edition or whatever, when Apocalypse first came out, was it 5th or 6th? But it was basically just, here's extra crap you can do if you're playing this many points of a game. But like the game itself pretty much ran as normal 40K.
Yeah.
I'm knowing the modern Games Workshop, I'm really seeing that as there's probably going to be like an alteration to the basic.
Yeah, I think you're probably
core
right.
mechanic. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
Not as excited about any of the rest of this stuff as I am about the Slaanesh releases. That's definitely a big one for me as well. Also, the little hint that they're giving away Sisters of Battle for the survey.
Yep.
So no one else out there, if you hear my voice, don't take the survey. I want to win. I've been waiting for Plastic Sisters for a long time. So send me your feedback, and I'll compile it all, and I'll answer the survey for everybody.
Yeah,
12,000 times because I want my sister's army.
Yeah, I get the feeling when Sisters come out, whatever you happen to be working at the time is going to fall to the wayside.
Absolutely. I had told myself I'm gonna work on my orcs. And then when we did New Year, New Army, I went Custodes because it's got a low model count and I like the Golden Boys. And I've kind of come to the conclusion that 2019 is the year of the Imperium for me personally.
That's fair.
So I'm going to do my Custodes. I've also got an AdMac army in the works that I've had commissioned because I don't have time to do 2 armies. I have a feeling I'll do my Space Marines after that. And then by then, Sisters are going to come out. So orcs are way back on the pipe dream back burner for me right now.
Yeah. Which, speaking of armies that we were starting and then dropping because something cooler came along that we wanted to do more, we should come back after this and talk about some of the new Chaos stuff.
Absolutely.
And how it's awesome.
All right, welcome back, everybody. So Chaos.
New Chaos stuff.
Indeed.
Shadow Spear, Chaos Space Marines / Heretic Astartes 2.0, Vigilus Ablaze.
Oh, it is so on fire.
Yeah, it's... I don't know if on fire is a strong enough word for what's happening to... Oh, that's fair. That's a good point. Yeah,
I have other words, but I'm not going to use them.
Yeah. So Abaddon, of course.
Yep.
That horse has been beaten to death. He now has arms again, so that's nice. And he's also not the tiniest Terminator.
That's true.
He's also an amazing model.
Yeah, and I was happy to see that he did get a little bit of a bump.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of them just releasing a new model and making a big deal and then just reprinting the index and codex stat line, he did get a little bit of a...
Yeah, he's pretty solid at this point. He might not be competitive. I think time will tell on that to see how some of the Black Legion stuff plays out in particular, but he's certainly no slouch.
Yeah. Well, I think he'll do all right.
Yeah, I think so too. So yeah, new models abound. Yes. Abaddon, new Chaos Marine set, new Havocs, which new Havocs, the rules are just wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
Toughness 5, no penalty for moving and shooting heavy weapons. Like, what are these Chaos Dark Reapers?
Well, with that chain cannon.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah, basically.
Which, I mean, we could, the internet is ablaze, to borrow the term from the Vigilus book, with complaints about how the kit only includes one chain cannon.
Yeah.
So I will avoid going on that rant here myself.
Yeah. And sadly, Terminators, while the models look really cool, they didn't really get all that much better. But, it's a nice kit at least. And if you're just playing fun games. Or
they did get a bit of a point reduction.
That's true.
So they shaved a couple points off each Terminator, and they also made chain axes their default weapon instead of power weapons, which shaved, I want to say, 3 points per model. I don't have the page in front of me, but each Terminator got a little bit cheaper. And if you're just running them with combi bolters because you want to use bolter discipline, you can give them chain axes instead of power axes, which will save you. So I think the naked bog standard minimum size unit of Terminators, if you just want a deep strike bomb with bolter discipline,
right,
you're actually coming in, I believe it's somewhere in the neighborhood of like 10 or 20 points less or something like that. It's cheaper than
it might even be more than that. I'm not
it's
positive.
Cheaper. Forgive me for not having the points off the top of my head, but they are cheaper.
Here somewhere,
so the nice thing is they are making adjustments to Terminators to try to make them more viable.
Yeah.
So
it's nice to see.
No crazy new sculpts of a crazy new Terminator weapon or anything, but you know what? That's fine. Bolter discipline's pretty great.
Yeah.
So as long as the Terminators can get within striking distance of cost effective, just dropping a bunch of combi bolters onto the field with deep strike could be clutch. So
yeah, there's a lot of options there at least. So that's nice to see, and they definitely needed the updated models. So,
they did, for sure.
It's good to see too.
So I do have to, before we get into the nuts and bolts, some of the new mechanics, I have to talk about the Lord Discordant for a second.
Yeah.
The new model that goes on pre-order, I believe, this weekend.
Yes, this Saturday.
And I can't get over it. I mean, he is arguably one of the most 40K models in the game. I mean, he is a 80s heavy metal album cover, like just brought to life. And I know I used the album cover as a joke earlier to make fun of the poses of some of their models, but this dude looks like he's from Masters of the Universe, man. He's the muscly warpsmith on top of something that might as well be a demon battle cat. He's covered in tentacles. Like like Doc Ock and He-Man and Warpsmith had a baby somehow, and it came out this awesome pile of nightmarish guitar riff.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy. Like, I don't have a Chaos Army right now, but I'm buying that model, and I don't know that I'm going to be able to wait long enough to like start a Chaos. Like, I'll probably have like a small Vanguard detachment of something crazy, because I'm just going to look at that model on my shelf and be like, that guy's got to be on the table.
It needs to get used.
Oh, God, he's so pretty. I love him.
I mean, you look at the model, and then you take his name, Lord Discordant.
Yeah.
Like you have a metal album cover.
Oh,
right
absolutely. Well, the other thing too is the kit is actually named after the named version of him.
Right.
So the kit is called Vex Machinator, which, like, I mean, that is a 90s cartoon bad guy name, and I love it. Like Vex Machinator could have been one of the bad guys on like Cops or in like RoboCop or something. Like that dude, not only does he look like a guitar solo, the named character version of him like is like a 13-year-old's fever dream. Like, I freaking love it.
He, Mumra, and Skeletor team up and take on a combined world.
And for a single model, he's coming at a pretty effective price point. I'm not going to go into that right now, but he's a lot cheaper than I would have thought he was.
Yeah, I was expecting him to be more expensive. And he's got some cool rules. Like, he literally eats vehicles. Yeah. He literally eats them and turns them into wounds and beams of death.
Yes.
Can't complain.
Punch a tank and then shoot a laser with its soul.
Yeah.
Like I said, he is a 3-dimensional plastic guitar solo on your tabletop.
I do have to say, I love the touch that they have the little orb that has the machine spirit from a Land Raider embedded into his Battle
Cat.
Scorpion
call
cat.
it Battle Cat.
Battle Cat.
It's called a
Battle
Hellstalker.
Cat. Yeah,
but
with one L because family friendly.
Right, but I will always refer to mine as Battle Cat.
Yeah, it's like I don't even know what it's like. It's weird. It looks like something you'd see in like Dark Souls or Bloodborne or.
It's just an amazing model.
It is. It really is. Anyway,
I've sidetracked us a bit on that one, but I just couldn't help it. So Nate, our in-house Chaos player here, is going to actually talk about some of the rules that we got with the new Chaos releases, and some of them are pretty terrifying.
Yeah. Speaking of other new models that are really cool and stuff that's coming out, the updated Dark Apostle with the Disciples. Is just a great looking model, and the prayers now you can do some really fun stuff. It's just a good flavorful and pretty useful on the battlefield kind of addition to the army. And it's a lot better than the whatever it used to be. Oh, you can use my leadership if you're within 6 inches, and also you might get to re-roll a thing or what's it. And
yeah, Chaos now has a Smash Captain competitor.
Yeah.
If you stack the right things and have things in the right bubbles, you can do something that some other folks on the internet have already started calling the Chain Lord, and it is redonkulous.
Oh, I bet.
So I can go into that very, very limitedly once we get done talking about the specific things, but it involves these prayers that Nate's going to talk about.
Yeah, I love that there's so many different options for what you're going to do, and some of them are just really solid. I mean, the Dark Apostle really becomes a support character if you want him to be, or he becomes a whirlwind of death. You look at the individual gods' prayers, where if you're a Khorne priest, it's add 2 to your strength, and you're running around with that.
No complaints there.
Yeah, or you at the same time you can run them with whether it's a bunch of cultists or whatever you might want it to be. Running around, run illusory supplication, and everything within 6 inches of them gets an invuln. 5+ invuln. It's sure it doesn't seem like much, but when your cultists have a 6+ armor save, that 5+ invuln all of a sudden turns them into demons.
Well, how many orc armies do you see out there without a custom force field?
Exactly.
Orcs pay 20 points for everybody within 9 inches to have a 5+ invuln, and that's only against shooting.
Yeah.
So.
And that's the nice thing about the illusory supplication is it's
just
everything.
Straight up invuln.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, another thing I think is really cool about those prayers being good is that, like, for folks who like to play fluffy armies, like word bearers were not a very good legion to play, but they're like one of the most interesting, cool, fluffy legions. And like, really, when you get down to the nitty gritty, like they're the ones who started the Horus heresy. What with Lorgar, going through all that stuff to turn Horus and everything. So the just seeing kind of their signature character actually become like viable.
Yeah.
Just because, you got the hyper religious legion and now the priest of chaos version of a space marine is actually like worth fielding.
Yep.
Yeah. It's really nice.
I like that the prayers are varied. It's not just all variations on a theme. They all work to do something different. So depending on how you build your list, you can really tailor your Dark Apostle to what your list wants to do. I look at Litany of Despair, which is if it's heard, your opponent rolls 2d6 and discards the lowest whenever they take a morale test for a unit within 6 inches. Like if you're running a bunch of Raptors with Harken World Claimer, or you're running Night Lords and Raptors, or just Night Lords
and Harken World Claimer,
and if you want to run Harken World Claimer, it's got to be in a different detachment though.
Yeah, but they did bring him back to his ability affects all Raptors. So.
Yes. Yep.
So if you're running a Night Lord Raptor army, I would make room for him.
Yeah. So, I mean, all that though, all of a sudden that and some of the other leadership stuff that you can get out of the Codex, it becomes even better. But not for a crazy amount of points, and it's everything within 6 inches. It's not target unit, and having your Dark Apostle up close isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I look at like Warp Site Plea, which is pick a friendly Legion unit within 6 inches, and then add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made with ranged weapons.
Yeah.
Like throw that on some Havocs.
Yeah.
And or some Obliterators.
Yeah. The Obliterators are the slight bump that the Obliterators got. Like I don't think you're going to see them in every army, but they're actually like usable now. Like
the points got a lot higher, but you get a lot of bang for your buck out of them.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I think we'll see some lists, especially with the combination of the prayers and some of the new Malefic discipline stuff from the Master of Possession.
Yeah,
like there's some solid options there. Which, speaking of that, there's my personal favorite, and it's a playstyle we don't see a whole lot, and I would love to see more of, but it's one I'm going to be trying out just for the fun of it. But that's that incursion power from the Malefic discipline, where you're on a 7, you're getting to summon outside of your movement phase, as if it's the movement phase. You get 4 dice to do it instead of 3, and you don't have to worry about doubles for mortal wounds because you just ignore them. So
demon summoning.
You're basically, I won't say guaranteeing, but on average, you can easily summon 30 bloodletters or just about any single chaos demon model that you want to, and not have to worry about the ramifications of rolling doubles and all that. Like, you can roll as high as you want, and there's just a lot of flexibility there.
Yeah. Well, it'd be nice to see demon summoning see some play.
Yeah.
Because in matched play, which, whether you agree, disagree, like it, or don't like it, is pretty much the default setting for 40K in most places. The tactical reinforcements, or whatever they call the rule, where you have to set points aside. Tactical reserves, tactical reserves is for deep strike.
Yeah, reinforcement.
Yeah, reinforcement points. Yep. Thank you. But the reinforcement points rule, where you have to actually buy your summoning pool in the list build. I mean, it makes perfect sense for game balance standpoint, but it pretty much stiff-armed summoning out of the game, because people were like, well, I don't want to only set up 1,100 points in my army when the other guy sets up 2,000 points.
Right.
But really, if you think about it, all you're doing is holding 900 points in deep strike reserve and just getting to change what units they are.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it really is not a bad mechanic at all, but because everybody's like, well, that's BS.
Yeah.
Nobody uses it.
Yeah.
And so
the downsides, the potential for all the mortal wounds and everything, it made it tough. It's tough to justify saying, yeah, I'm going to hold 800 points of demons in reserve, but there's a decent chance every time I go to deep strike them that the guy who's making it happen suffers a mortal wound. And like I get 3 units in, he suffered 3 mortal wounds, and all of a sudden if I do it again, well,
he's dead.
And you can only do it once per turn per character.
Yeah.
So that makes it tough too, which fun little thing with the Malefic, the incursion power, you could finish your movement phase, summon a demon, and then cast the psychic power and summon another demon. So if you're running 2 Masters of Possession, you could be bringing in 4 demon units a turn, which you're crazy. Probably bringing in demon units turn 1, maybe turn 2, because because you're doing it through summoning, you ignore the whole can't come in on turn 1 thing. So it's like deep striking, but better in a lot of ways.
True.
It's
and I think another thing that kind of held it back was the versatility of being able to pick what demons you had.
Yeah.
Presupposed that you owned them all.
Right.
Because you can't summon something you don't own. Because obviously proxying is bad. Okay. So, you have a Swiss Army knife of whatever demons you need, but you got to own them.
Yeah.
And so who wants to paint a 4,000 point army to play 2,000 point games?
Right.
So
but if you have a couple units that whether it's you need to shore up some weaknesses, do I want to bring in a screening unit of bloodletters that I might want, or do I want some psychic power because I need more psychic defense? And being able to have those options is nice. I think I don't know, it's the kind of list I'm going to play around with a lot. Because I think it has some merit to it.
Well, and being able to protect your characters from the mortal wounds and having the extra dice and stuff makes it worth that investment of time and money.
Right.
Makes it worth buying the models to be versatile because you have a better chance of getting them in the game, beneficially.
Yeah.
So I think that's awesome.
But one other quick thing on Chaos, because we're running a little long here, but the Vigilus Ablaze Renegade chapter, Legion, whatever you want to call it, the Renegades, where it's broken down, and you have the Brazen Bulls and all that, and the Red Corsairs. It's the only one that I'm actually going to talk about because I don't want to say it's ridiculous, but if you're not running a Chaos army designed around a Legion, using a Legion special rules, I just don't see a reason to take anything other than Red Corsairs.
Yeah.
The command point benefits are, I don't want to invoke too much hyperbole, but they're kind of insane. So unless something changes there, I imagine we will probably see a lot of Red Corsair armies.
Or at least Red Corsair detachments.
Well, yeah.
So what we're going to see is we're going to see Black Legion armies or Night Lord armies or Thousand Sun armies or whatever that are running a battalion of 3 minimum size units of naked Space Marines and 2 naked cheap characters that have the Red Corsairs Renegade Legion trait, and then bring, what is that? It's going to be 8 command points. Because it's 5 for the battalion, and then 3 for making all 3 of your troop choices Chaos Space Marines.
Yep.
So it's like a super command point battery, but you have to pay for Marines instead of Guardsmen.
But even then, it's you're bringing units of 5.
Yeah.
They're not that expensive.
Yeah.
Like 15 points per model, 13
Indeed.
points per model without war gear.
And here's another thing that makes it kind of scary, and I'll do this quick because, as Nate said, we're running a little bit long. But the Chain Lord character that I referred to is even cheaper than a Smash Captain.
Oh, wow.
So now, granted, this requires Black Legion, but if you run this like close combat monster in your main Black Legion detachment, it's going to save you some points. It's going to make it easier to afford those Red Corsairs for command points.
Right.
So the fact that they're more expensive than Guardsmen or cultists doesn't matter as much because you can get a completely broken combat monkey. I don't want to say broken because I'm not trying to imply that it's unfair. It's more Chaos is getting as competitive with the Imperium.
Yeah.
But if you throw a Chaos Lord with a jump pack and you give him 2 chain swords instead of any kind of crazy weapons, the Black Legion has a relic chain sword that does 2 damage and mortal wounds on a roll of a 6.
It's the one from Vigilus Ablaze, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's also a Warlord trait that allows a Chaos Lord to do mortal wounds on wound rolls of 6.
Yep.
And there is one of the prayers for the priests that gives you like +1 to wound rolls.
Yep,
And
+1 to wound.
So what ends up happening is for like somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 points cheaper than a Marine Smash Captain, you can have a Chaos Lord with a jump pack with 2 chain swords, one of which is a relic, and he has a bajillion attacks. I want to say like 6 or something attacks. And because of the chain swords, the relic chain sword gives you 2 extra attacks instead of 1 extra attack. So he's got even more there.
Yeah.
And because the two mortal wound abilities that he has do not say unmodified rolls of a 6, they say wound rolls of 6+.
Oh.
So you can actually nudge that down with stacking special rules to a 4-up. Because so you have this Lord rolling a bajillion attacks. He hits on 2s. He rerolls his 1s because he's a Chaos Lord.
Yep.
And then when he does, he is able to wound on wound rolls of a 4-up. He does 2 mortal wounds, 1 for the sword and 1 for the Warlord trait.
Yep.
And then the chain sword, the relic chain sword, has a power sword's AP.
Yeah.
So not only is he getting all these crazy extra attacks, but he's still hitting you at AP -3.
Yeah. Jumping blender.
And if you give him the Mark of Corn, you can use the stratagem to attack twice. So, and he's not very expensive.
Right.
So you stack your Black Legion with those jerks.
Yeah.
And then you have all kinds of points left over to run this Red Corsair's command point battery so that you can fuel paying for the Corn stratagem for your Chain Lords to attack twice.
Yep.
So it's a nice little like positive feedback loop that that Chaos can use to really hang with some of the Imperial shenanigans that the game has.
Yeah.
So, I used the word broken earlier, but I meant it in the context of scary, not in the context of unfair. I think I was happy to see that Chaos can make a stupid chainsword missile.
Oh, for sure.
So that's one thing I'm excited about the Chaos, but that's because I am an orc player at heart. So giving a Chaos Space Marine 2 chainsaws and then throwing him through the air with a jetpack and having him be like a competitively viable model makes me so happy.
Yeah, it's nice to see. And, as I mentioned earlier on, with switching back to Chaos, I've decided Black Legion's the way to go, at least for the majority of my stuff. So I'm going to have to give that guy a try, I think.
Yeah, I think
see how it plays out.
Black Legion's a solid choice.
Yeah, it's just it's a versatile all around, especially with bolter discipline, being able to have a lot of that flexibility in shooting, because I prefer the Marines as troop choices to cultists or any of the demons. I'll run them if I need the points, but being able to just run the guys around with bolters, I don't know. The Black Legion trait makes it even better, and the leadership bump is really nice. Yeah, not having "and they shall know no fear," but getting that bump to leadership is
really handy.
Is solid.
I also think that there is a kind of a portent anyway of the future. I'm really hoping that what we saw with the extra Legion traits in the Chaos 2.0. I'm really hoping that translates into more chapter tactics in Marines 2.0.
Agreed.
I'm hoping that we see. I don't know that we'll see the Forge World like the Carcharodons or Red Scorpions or whatever. But if we can at least see Hawk Lords and just anything, whatever. Pick your random.
The major not first founding chapters.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, other than Crimson Fists and Black Templars.
Yes, and they are so popular nowadays. I really want to see official Blood Raven rules. I don't play them myself, but I have a hobby shop in a small town in West Michigan, and I have 3 independent players who did not know each other before starting to play at my shop, and they all 3 of them have Blood Raven armies. And I'm not even a huge city with thousands of and so just the fact that they're just a popular chapter. I would really like to see Games Workshop do something.
A lot of people know 40K from Dawn of War.
Exactly.
They'd make that transition from video game to tabletop game, and what Space Marine chapter is from Dawn of War? Blood Ravens.
Exactly. And they gave them the Forge World made their named character.
Yeah.
So I would just love to see some more love for that. But that's just an aside. Me I guess what's the word I'm looking for? Speculating. That's not the word I'm trying to say, but prognosticating.
Yeah, that's a word.
Based on the Chaos Codex. So anyway, we'll come back in a little bit and kind of talk about our own hobby progress, and then a note about future thing here. So we'll be back. Welcome back. Well, as promised, some updates on our own personal quest to have less unpainted plastic. But I'm going to pass the torch to my partner here, who has a little bit of shame to answer for.
I started over. Leave me alone. Chaos is pretty, and chaos, and it's pretty. So I started over. Okay.
Okay, that's fair.
Like, leave me alone. The models are great, and as much as the Gene Stealer cults are cool, I already had half a Chaos army that I had shelved because it didn't have cool models. So now there's cool models, and it's pretty. So, yeah. Meh. It's happening.
No, that's fair. And to be totally honest, we, as we said in our first episode, we're kind of doing a new year, new army thing and trying to hold each other accountable to get ourselves in good hobby habits. And we've went back and forth a lot about this particular subject. And the kind of conclusion that we came to was that, like, the hobby shouldn't be a chore.
Yep.
Because part of the reason why nobody paints their stuff is because they look at their closet / shelf / desk of shame or whatever, and they go, oh, I have too much stuff to do.
Yep.
That's why I haven't had a fully painted orc army since the Armageddon Codex in 3rd edition.
Oh, gosh.
Because I look at my giant pile of orcs and I go, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I love painting a model. What I don't love is painting 400 of the same model.
Oh, yeah.
And so we talked about that a lot. You know what? And this is something hopefully is helpful for you guys at home. It's okay.
Yeah.
If you tell yourself, like, man, I've got, I spent $200 on these Primaris Marines because I was all jacked up to do a all Primaris army, and then say, like, I don't know, the AdMech could get like colonial era flute playing Skitarii or something, and you just like, oh my god, these guys are so cool looking, I gotta have them because they're like robots and they play flutes. Do it and paint it.
Yeah.
Because whatever you're going to be excited about, it doesn't matter what shape or faction or rules a lump of gray plastic is. It's still a lump of gray plastic, it's still a lump of gray plastic, and if you have too many of those, you're not going to do it.
Yep.
So if you find something you're excited about, do it. And so I made it a point to give a requisite amount of crap to Nate for wanting to change his army.
Oh, absolutely.
But the truth of the matter is, like, if you're gonna do your Chaos army, do it. I didn't want to be like, no, you told me Gene Stealer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think what it really comes down to is this is a hobby. Hobbies are supposed to be for fun and usually for relaxation.
Yeah.
And there is no point in slaving yourself to some particular faction, some particular goal. I mean, sure, if you want to go to a tournament or whatever and you have to have your 3-color minimum or whatever, yeah, you need to get that done.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely. Because your goal there is the tournament. It's not just the having fun side of things. But if the tournament's what's going to be fun, the prerequisite is to be painted for the tournament, then yeah, you gotta get your painting done. But if the fun part is the hobby side of it and being able to play games with your friends, with your nicely painted, not gray plastic miniatures, like, you're just going to burn yourself out if you keep forcing yourself to play the same thing. And that's kind of where I ran into it with Gene Stealer cults. Was I had a lot of models to assemble, and that is my least favorite part of the entire process. And just, I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. I got 15 Gene Stealers in, almost done painting all of them and assembling some other stuff, and I just went, man, my heart's just not in it.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too, is I'm not going to say, don't paint your models because your heart's not in it. Like, just go ahead and play gray plastic because you don't care. Because it's a hobby. I'd love to see, painted miniatures out there, and everybody, I think, whether or not they are a miniature painter or an artist or whatever, like, the games are more fun when stuff is painted. There's like it's a not necessarily quantifiable thing, but it's just the games are cooler when the models all look cool.
Yeah.
And so I'm not gonna say I'm letting everybody off the hook as far as just the hobby in general, but like Nate said, there's no reason to make it a job. Like, you know, you're choosing to work on your models in lieu of socializing with your friends or spending time with your wives or husbands or children, or, you know, if you're not enjoying it,
Yeah.
you know, it's kind of, what's the point? You
Right,
know?
right.
And so if there's something that catches your interest, if you're going to do it, do it. If you're not going to do it, if you're just going to buy another kit and it's going to join your pile of unpainted models,
Stop
then
looking
maybe
in my
just,
closet.
yeah, then maybe just, you know, work on those Primaris Marines. But if you're actually going to paint this mythical unit of flute playing Skitarii that I would love, Nate's making faces at me because of my ridiculous
How
example.
do they breathe? They're robots.
But you know, if you're going to be excited about it, you're going to assemble them, and you're going to paint it, do it,
Yeah.
and figure it out later. You know, like, because if that means that you got to run a separate detachment of Skitarii because you have these cool painted guys, but you still want to play Space Marines, you know what? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Because if they're painted, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So if you need to switch or you need to change, do it. This is us officially giving you permission. Like, follow what you're going to do. Like, follow your motivation.
Yeah. Because you totally needed our permission.
Yes. Well, I mean, you know, it's a motivational thing to say,
I'm
hey,
giving
like,
myself permission is basically what's
and
happening.
that's fair.
here.
But you know, I'm saying it that way not because I think that everyone out there needs our permission so
Right.
much as just like they might need validation. They're like, hey,
Oh, yeah.
you know, so you're halfway through an Eldar army you hate. You know what? Well, in 6 months you might not hate it.
Right.
So if you've had a wandering eye for a Tau crisis suit list, you know what? Put the Eldar in the closet and get the Tau out. The nice thing is the Eldar are not going to be mad at you, and they don't go bad. So
right. Well, you're probably going to wind up with new models eventually. So
yeah, no, that's fair. But you know what I mean? They don't expire.
Yeah, right.
You can come back to those Eldar in 6 months, and they're not going to have like started smelling like rotten cheese or anything.
that's true. That's very
So-
true. I would hope not anyway.
So our soapbox aside, that is our the completely self-serving prescription that we gave ourselves to justify Nate's terrible decision of changing from Gene Stealer Cult to Chaos.
I wouldn't call it a terrible decision, to be fair.
That's fair.
It was a decision I was quite happy with.
Heretic.
Finish your custodies.
Yeah. Okay. So speaking of my hobby progress, I had said last episode that I was going to have my bikes, my Dawn Eagle jet bikes finished by the next time we record, and I kind of almost maybe sort of thought about doing that. I last night actually blocked in where all the colors are, so they're ready to be shaded and highlighted and touched up, so they're, you know, closer. I'm gonna go ahead and play the excuse card and say I broke my leg and I had pneumonia. And
It's a pretty good excuse. That's actually two pretty good excuses combined.
but and yet I still feel like I failed, and that's what hobbies are about, really.
Failure.
It's an imposing sense of dread and failure.
Crushing feeling of failure.
But I made up for it by commissioning an entire army from someone else. So now,
Wait, aren't we supposed to take the commissions?
so I cheated a little bit. Our intention here with this podcast is that we do want to expand into other kinds of content. We'd like to have battle reports and things. And I figured, you know, it's going to be pretty boring if every single battle report we post once we get to that point is Custodes versus Chaos or Gene Stealer Cult or whatever, because those are the only two armies we have fully painted due to having, you know, lives and jobs and families. So I wanted to get a heads up on having kind of like a studio army for us to do, and a buddy of mine is a commissioned painter, and so once we get those AdMech back, we'll probably do a short little segment plugging his commissioned studio and showing some pictures. But so we've got an AdMech army coming, hopefully in the next few weeks here, so that we can start work on the first battle report.
Yep.
So
And hopefully that'll be out in, I don't know. I'm not going to put a date on it. Hopefully soon.
Yeah, soon. I would like to say in April, but I would also like a pony. So
Yeah.
actually,
I'd like $1 million.
I have a pony, and they're terrible. They're terrible people. I have a pony and they suck. So
Yeah, I don't want a pony.
yeah. But yeah, I'm hoping that we'll be able to do battle reports relatively soon here.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get the AdMech in for that. So in a way, I kind of cheated, paid somebody else to do it, but we'll have a fully painted army here soon. And I'm grinding away at the Custodes one golden boy at a time. So
I'm going to take the high road and not give you a hard time about how you're a filthy cheater and you took the easy way out.
you know what? That's fine. I'm happy down here on the low road.
That's fine. I'm happy with my chaos. So I guess we'll come back to how that goes in our next episode.
Yeah. So we'll talk more about Nate will change to another army, and I will pay somebody else to do all my work for me.
Thinking about Dark Eldar next time. It could be interesting.
That's fair. So that's kind of where our hobby progress is. Not a glorious update, but that's where we're at.
An update's an update.
Yep. But I promised that we might talk about something coming soon, and I wasn't just talking about battle reports. We had gotten some feedback about kind of a little primer on 40K for people who might come across the podcast and not know what the crap we're talking about. So we have talked about recording an episode 0 that is a little bit of just kind of a general primer on the hobby. So we'll talk a little bit about the background and the story and a little bit about the rules and the hobby side of it. And you may see hints of things to come and how we set that episode up.
Yeah.
So look soon for an episode 0 that is just a elevator pitch for 40K, both in story and in game.
Yep.
But aside from that, I think we're hitting about the time to go here. What do you say, Nate?
I think so. I think we've rambled on long enough, so we can wrap it up here, and hopefully we'll see everybody in a month where there's something else interesting to talk about.
Oh, indeed. Our goal is to get a little bit quicker on the releases, but like I said, I had some life things come up.
Yeah.
Nate had some complications as well. Nothing as fancy and tear jerking as falling off a ladder and breaking your leg and then catching pneumonia. But he had stuff going on too, so I guess that was kind of important.
Family medical emergencies and stuff. It happens.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But anyway, so we'll see you all again soon. Thanks for listening.
Bye, everybody. Have a good one.
Yeah, see ya.